Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
I'm Max Traver.
I'm Christine Panton.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back to the original weekly guide to the DC Comics multiverse. Thank you for joining us. This week we return, after a bit of a gap, to the pages of Shazam. We're going to be bringing you issue 27, published on the 19th of October, 1976. Just a week or so after John Lennon's 36th birthday, for those who keep counting such things. And Peter will now tell us about the cover.
Well, folks, we have a new logo in the top left corner. It says, a DC TV comic! And there's a picture of a television there, and none other than Captain Marvel himself. Looks like he's bursting out of it.
Gosh.
Either that, he's just starting the dance to YMCA, because his arms are upstretched in a Y form above his head.
Well, that's obviously told us which song we have to play out with this week, if this was the Power of Three.
There's text at the top saying, the Saturday Morning Superstar. With one magic word, Shazam, the world's mightiest mortal. 30 cents, number 27, February. The production code is 30688, and it's approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Phew.
And now that all that's out the way, let's talk about the main image on the cover. In the centre of the cover we have, it's the Liberty Bell, not the Golden Age heroine Liberty Bell, but the actual Liberty Bell with the Kraken and everything. Yes, Dr. Savannah is there with his hand on it. His other hand has a gun, and he's pointing it at the big red cheese. But what's he doing? Captain Marvel himself is flying in, punching some historical figures. There's a chap in kind of Revolutionary War gear who's wielding a sword, and the other person that Captain Marvel's punching, he's got a tomahawk on, he's topless, he's bald, but he's got one of those knot tops with a feather in it, and adorned round his neck is a necklace made of teeth. Or is it ivory? Who knows? We might find out. We might not. That's fine. In the background of this cover is another figure, a shady-looking gangster who's wielding a gun. He has a hat on, casting a shadow over his eyes. He's looking at Captain Marvel punching these two guys, and to be perfectly honest, I think he's thinking, I'm getting the heck out of here.
He is thinking that, I'm sure.
And as Captain Marvel flies in, he's saying, holy moly, Savannah's brought villains from revolutionary times to help him destroy Philadelphia.
Gosh! Now, that's a very specific threat, isn't it? So listeners, some context. 1974, the Shazam TV series started, featuring Michael Gray as Billy Batson, and, of course, Captain Marvel was played by both Jackson Bostwick and a guy called John Davey.
There we are.
So it's quite a good surname, if you ask me. So the series started in 1974, as I say. On the socials, you'll have seen a couple of DC house ads that promoted it. I know that I posted one very recently during the week of Teen Titans issue 44, so go and have a look for that if you haven't seen it. Now, what's really, really interesting is the format of the Shazam TV series basically featured Billy Batson and an older guy called Mentor, basically driving around America in a road vehicle, sort of just helping people out and solving crimes and lecturing kids on good behaviour and such like. And eventually, DC Comics reformatted the comic book Shazam series to reflect the TV series. In fact, it was in issue 26, the one before Pete and I are reading today, that was published on 12th of August 1976, that they rearranged the setup so that Billy and Uncle Dudley, not Mr. Mentor, but Uncle Dudley, who had now grown a moustache so he looked a bit like Mentor from the DV series, were now driving around America in an RV getting up to mischief. So it's really interesting it took them that long to do it, especially when you consider that the final original episode of the TV series was broadcast 3 days before issue 27 was published.
Wow. Crikey. Late to the party, DC.
Yep. DC with their finger on the pulse. So issue 26 featured a visit to Washington and some nice, very carefully rendered artwork of Washington landmarks. And because this issue, as we see from the cover, is set in Philadelphia, there will doubtless be a couple of interesting Philadelphia landmarks. And I'm sure the next couple of issues, there'll probably be some more. This comic was reprinted in Volume 2 of Shazam, the World's Mightiest Mortal, published in 2020, listeners. So if you've got that on your shelf, go and grab it if you want to read along. And after all that preamble, Actually, before we get into it properly, we'll just point out that we didn't get the Shazam TV series over here.
No.
I've only ever seen clips from it. Have you ever seen any full episodes, Pete?
Not really, no. I saw one full episode, but to be honest, it was not very memorable. But I know there was the public service announcement sort of thing at the end of every episode.
Yeah.
That we're more familiar with from like He-Man and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the G.I. Joe PSAs that pop up as well. And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
What's interesting actually with the TV series, a lot of the sound effects and the music from it were reused in the Shazam animated series that started a couple of years later. Mm-hmm. But we'll probably talk about that a bit more in another episode, I am sure. And we should also mention that issue 25 of Shazam featured an appearance of the character Isis, who had her own TV series at the same time as Shazam. And indeed, Isis appeared in 3 episodes of Shazam. I believe that Shazam also appeared in 3 episodes of Isis. Isis, of course, played by Joanna Cameron, and that TV series inspired another short-lived DC comic series as well. Peter and I have debated long and hard about whether or not we should do any issues of it, and we decided not to.
That's true. There was one incredibly tenuous one, even tenuous by our standards, so we're going to skip it.
So yes.
Plus, we don't want to put out a podcast episode called ISIS. People might get the wrong idea.
Yes, indeed. So if you're disappointed that we haven't done any issues of ISIS or the crossover, we apologise. If you want to go and start your own podcast about ISIS, we would encourage you to do so, and we'll definitely get you on to do a guest voice and share it and mention it on our socials as well, probably. Gasp. Right, well, that's it for this week.
If only.
On that bombshell.
We'll warn you in advance, this is possibly one of the biggest cast episodes we've ever done.
Yes.
Not guest voices, although we have some of those, but actual characters in it. So bear with us as we try and do slightly different voices for all of them.
Yes, this is possibly the biggest cast we've ever had outside of the last JLA-JSA crossover. So we'll see how we got on. Jumping in. There's some captioning, setting the scene at the top of the first page.
Chosen to receive the powers of 6 ancient elders, young newscaster Billy Batson has only to speak the name of the ancient wizard, Shazam! And, in a flash of lightning, he is transformed into the world's mightiest mortal, Captain Marvel.
Yes, and this Marvel comic-style origin panel is enhanced by a small drawing of Billy Batson and a small drawing of the wizard Shazam, standing next to a handy poster that spells out Shazam and S for Solomon, H for Hercules, A for Atlas, Z for Zeus, A for Achilles, M for Mercury, F for Vesson, E for Urgent, all the way down the side. Beautiful.
Now Billy and his friend and mentor, Uncle Dudley, are traveling through America, filming a series of specials on young people for TV station Wiz, while at the same time tracking Savannah, the world's wickedest scientist, and his latest plot is to spread fear in Philadelphia. Our story begins as Captain Marvel pursues a gang of fleeing hoods through the famed Kennedy Plaza.
Yes, brilliant dynamic splash to kick things off. We see Cap knocking 4 goons into the fountain in the plaza. This is joyous, quite frankly, and we see in the background that blonde-haired goon in a purple jacket and blue jeans is running away. As he knocks the goons into the water, Cap says,
"This city is the cradle of liberty, but that doesn't include the liberty to steal other people's property."
Gosh, tons of moralising there already. And then there's a scroll caption, which gives us the credits for this issue.
Story, E. Nelson Bridwell. Art, Kurt Schaeffenberger and Vince Coletta. Editor, Joe Orlando.
Yes, and over the page we see the goons being helped out of the water by some police officers as Cap dusts his hands. I'm miming that for the benefit of our YouTube viewers. And a portly cop standing beside him says, "Thanks, Captain Marvel. When you're around, no criminal can get away."
I thought there was one more. I don't see him anywhere around, though.
Small wonder, for the terrified hood is already several blocks away, and still running.
Yes, we see the goon sprinting down a narrow alleyway, and take 3 sips of your drink, listeners, because we can see 3 rubbish bins, 3 trash cans right there. And as he runs along, he's thinking,
"Daren't look back. Captain Marvel might be gaining on me."
But it is another familiar figure that brings the frightened felon's flight to an abrupt end.
Yes, because he pulls up fast when he almost runs into a short, bald man wearing a white turtleneck lab coat, thick, round glasses, beady eyes poking out of the goon. We can see another trash can behind him. We're going to be drunk by the end of this page. Take another drink, listeners. And this, of course, is... Well, we find out who is in a second. But this angry-looking little bald man folds his arms, staring at the goon. He says, "Why the hurry, friend?"
Yipes! Who the... Savannah! That's how you are, ain't you?
Yes, the goon strokes his chin and points as he recognises the evil scientist, who looks a bit like that lady that works in Mount Florida railway station. She's not bald, but she's got the same evil expression. Savannah replies, "Exactly. Thaddeus B. Savannah, the rightful ruler of the universe. And I'm here to help you." And we see them go through a doorway into a basement. By the looks of things, we can see boarded up windows, a flight of stairs leading down to a large room where we see a whole bunch of other goons of various interesting haircuts and outfits standing around. And there's some tricky valve-heavy and pipe-heavy machinery in a corner, with a very beautiful blonde girl sat in front of it, checking her fingernails by the looks of it. Dr. Savannah and the goon look at all this. They take it all in as the goon says,
"You want me to join your gang, huh? Jeez, is that a coffin in here?"
Yes, he's noticed a detail that I didn't notice of the big chunky equipment. That is what the blonde girl is sitting on. Savannah replies, "Sort of, friend. Hee hee hee." And he moves down the stairs towards the tall blonde girl, who stands up saying,
"Father, you aren't going to use the reincarnation machine again, are you?"
"Of course, Beautya. It's a part of my big plan."
Are you forgetting what happened when you used it to bring Attila the Hun back to life? Ugh.
And we get an asterisk, which takes us to a very small caption that reads,
This story was told in Captain Marvel Adventures number 20, January the 22nd, 1943.
Yes, that you can tell this was written by E. Nelson Bridwell. Listeners, we'll pause for a moment while you all rush to your comic rooms and grab your copy of Captain Marvel Adventures number 20. Savannah crosses to the control console that all this equipment is connected up to. We see him fiddling with a few levers and twisting a few knobs as he replies, "That brute thought he deserved to rule the universe instead of me. But I won't make the same mistake again." Operating some more switches, the control console judders and shakes, and bolts of electricity start flying from it as he continues, "This machine is recreating every atom that once made up the body of one of the worst villains in American history."
As the sounds of the great machine die down, something stirs within the coffin.
Yes, we see the lid opening and a very hairy hand popping out. Beautya looks appalled. She says,
"Look, it worked. Something's in there."
The blonde goon says,
Something alive!
"Yes," says Dr. Savannah, rubbing his hands as the coffin flies open, and a very tall fellow in a very fancy coat with a pirate-style hat with his beard pleated into little pigtails stands there and says,
"Where in the devil's name am I, mates?"
And Dr. Savannah is jumping for joy, hands spread wide, as I'm miming for the benefit of YouTube viewers. He throws his head back and cries, "Hooray! It worked! I've brought Edward Teach, Blackbeard the pirate, back to life." Beautya and the rest of the goons look appalled. Beautya strokes her chin and says,
"Horrors! What a beast!"
This is interesting because I think it was established in, was it Fantastic Four, that the Thing was Blackbeard?
Yeah. Quite amusing.
Very different in this continuity. Over the page, a caption reads,
Again and again, the great machine is activated, and soon Savannah addresses a mob of local crooks.
Yes, a whole bunch of unsavoury looking types, and we see Dr. Savannah gesturing towards Blackbeard, but also standing next to him is a gorgeous, deadly looking lady pirate, wearing a tight-fitting green blouse, green pantaloons, Hawkeye-coloured purple boots. I mean, Hawkeye is in the Archer, not the Scottish term Hawkeye. She's got a nice red headscarf, and they stand there together as Dr. Savannah addresses his little gang of goons, saying, "You thugs will split into 3 groups, one under the leadership of 2 of the most notorious pirates of early America, Blackbeard and Anne Bonny." And there's a big-nosed, dark-haired goon in an oversized brown hat here who holds up a hand as if he's not having any of this nonsense, and he says,
"A female pirate? Who'd follow a dame's orders?"
And the female pirate lady isn't impressed with this. She lunges forward, bringing out her sword. She sweeps the sword, and it cuts off the top of this guy's hat as she says,
"You better do as I say, or this lass will cut a bit lower with her cutlass."
Yes, and indeed, as the top of the hat goes flying, the goon says,
"Yipes, I think I just joined Women's Lib."
Gosh, how 70s. Dr. Savannah then gestures behind him to a couple of figures that look very much like the Action Man stroke G.I. Joe accessory villain, the Intruder. One very thick, brutish chap with short dark hair, thick beard. He's wearing a sort of purple tunic, massive belt, white pantaloons, and brown boots, and stood next to him, approximately 2/3 of his size, is another almost identical figure, looking exactly the same. Savannah gestures at these two guys, saying, "Another gang of you will be led by two robbers and killers of the late 1790s, Mickajah and Wiley Harp." And the tall one of these two guys says, "Forget the Mickjah, just call me Big Harp."
"And I'm Little Harp,"
says the other one. Savannah then gestures to another group of three gentlemen. Oh, two of these guys look like the chaps Peter described from the cover, actually. One guy wearing a very neat, long, very smart red coat. He has a sort of frilly necktie, wearing a white powdered wig. Next to him, the chap with the necklace of teeth that Peter described, the top knot, the feathers stuck in it, the piercings, the armbands, holding a tomahawk in his right hand. And next to them is another chap wearing an old school American military uniform with a long blue coat with golden shoulder epaulettes and a white scarf tucked into a white waistcoat, white long pantaloons. And Savannah gestures at them and says in turn, "The rest of you will follow Captain Walter Butler, the Tory terrorist." That's the guy in red. "Simon Girty, the white renegade who led Indian attacks against the American settlers." And that's obviously the guy with the top knot. And finally, "and General Benedict Arnold." And that's the guy in blue.
As the three gangs of gunsols follow their new leaders out, Savannah chuckles evilly.
"They'll keep Captain Marvel busy while I arrange for him to destroy Philadelphia." Before we turn the page, there's a Hostess Cupcakes advertisement featuring Batman and Robin, but I'm not going to talk about that because Paul and I will be talking about it in a couple of weeks in the DC Special Cast.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Exciting.
Consider that a plug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we see a nice, spooky full-page advertisement encouraging us to have a happy, haunting Halloween. And this is an advertisement plugging Ghosts, House of Mystery, Unexpected, DC Superstars, and of course, Weird War Tales, appropriately enough, given that Max,
Yes.
you're helping us out this week. I might put this advert on the socials this week, actually, because it's quite cool. Listeners, we are only at the top of page 5.
Meantime, Billy Batson and Uncle Dudley cruise the streets of Philadelphia.
Ah, the streets of Philadelphia, of course, was a...
Was covered by menswear.
Yes. Have I ever told you? My friend Barry, hi Barry if you're listening, I know he won't be. Only person from school I'm really still in touch with. My mate Barry used to go out with this girl called Rona 30 years ago. And Rona was friends with a group of folk who were in a band.
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, the first time I went to King Tut's Waba Hut in Glasgow was to see their band playing. And their bass player, I'm miming bass playing for the benefit of our YouTube viewers, was a guy, the name he used was Matt, and Matt was getting married. And there was one day Barry came round to mine, picked me up in his car, I can't remember where we were going, and he was sort of saying, I was just talking to Matt from Sammy and Cammie's band yesterday, and I was like, all right, yeah, and he was telling me what song he wanted as the first dance of his wedding. And I was like, oh, really? And Barry told me through lots of laughter that Matt had told him that he wanted The Streets of Philadelphia as the first song on his wedding. Barry was laughing, saying, this is a song about someone who's dying of AIDS. But for some reason, Matt wants it as his first dance.
Wow.
And I've never forgotten this. That Springsteen song is forever coloured in my memory.
Okay.
Because this dafty from Ayrshire thought it was a nice romantic sentiment to have as his first wedding dance. There you go.
Oh, well.
Listeners, what appropriate songs the bass players of your knowledge want as their first dance when they get married? Anyway, they're cruising the streets of Philadelphia. Hey, do you think maybe this panel inspired Bruce Springsteen to write that song?
Maybe it did.
Bruce Springsteen, if you're listening, write it and let us know. Who can say? Actually, there was that film recently. I'm trying to remember if there was any shots from reading in issues of Shazam. That would have been cool. Anyway,
maybe.
Uncle Dudley's driving. Billy's looking out the window and Billy says,
It's been a long time since I was here, Uncle. I want to see everything.
yes, the ceremony isn't until tomorrow, my boy.
Imagine, Captain Marvel will actually ring the Liberty Bell.
That reminds me, Billy. This city is certainly full of history. William Penn, Ben Franklin, the birthplace of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And then we see them driving past a nice, fancy, carefully rendered building, as Billy says.
Right. And many people don't realise this city was the nation's capital from 1790 to 1800, while the city of Washington was being built.
Wow, well, that's news to me. I didn't know that. And Uncle Dudley helpfully identifies the nice, carefully rendered building that they're driving past as he says, that's the place Congress met, Billy. Congress Hall. And then they drive past another very immaculately rendered construction, as Uncle Dudley says, and that's Old City Hall, where the Supreme Court sat. Learned something today, haven't we, Peter?
Absolutely.
The RV has pulled up, and in front of it, we can see a small green van with the word United written on it, and standing around it are a number of men with guns. Uncle Dudley cries, "Jove, lad! Those miscreants are hijacking a magazine distributor's truck." And Billy throws open the door of the RV, leaps out and cries,
Shazam!
The magic word is answered by a stab of lightning, a peal of thunder.
and a giant cartoon Shazam lightning bolt and a giant
Boom!
sound effect.
And Billy is transformed into the world's mightiest mortal.
And we see Cap leaping into action, flying towards the green van, and we see that the driver of the van is being encouraged to get out of his vehicle by a goon in a green jacket and green jeans, pointing a gun at him, and a figure of Big Harp, who's waving his sword at the poor driver. Big Harp is saying, "Get down, fellow. One of our bully boys will drive this strange wagon of yours." As Cap flies forward, he says,
If he does, he'd better head it for the local jail.
The two Harps shove a couple of the goons forward, with the little Harp saying,
"'Tis the red-clad fellow of whom Savannah warned us, brother."
"Aye! Men, stop him any way you can!" And the goons move forward with their guns as Cap marches towards them, saying,
I'm afraid you'll find that a hard order to obey. The way to stop me just doesn't exist.
and the goons fire on him with the machine gun and pistols. Bullets go flying,
Bam! Pow!
Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat.
and of course the bullets ricochet off Cap and go flying themselves, hopefully not into the bodies of any innocent passers-by, like what happened in that Spider-Man comic that time. Anyway, one of the goons has got behind the wheels of the truck, and he starts to move it towards Cap, and he says, "Yeah, let's see how you like being flattened by this rig." Revs the engine, drives towards Captain Marvel, who stands tall and straight and says,
I'd hate to wreck it, so I'll turn on the air brakes.
and he exhales heavily. And this prompts the driver of the van to cry, "Cripes!" He's turned Australian. "He's blowing the whole truck so hard it's backing up." In the next panel, top of the next page, Cap has lifted the van up and he's tipped it so that the driver falls out the van onto the ground. Cap saying,
Before I return this vehicle, I'll just clean out the rubbish.
the driver falls onto the ground with a massive yow. Top of the next page, Cap looks thoughtful as all these goons lie about the ground, and he says,
Looks like most of the crooks have fled. Maybe the ones I still have will tell us where they went. Later, with the captured hijackers in police custody, Captain Marvel sees that the truck gets safely back to the United News Company, where he is met by its president, Sid Stern.
Yes, I can't help but wonder if Sid Stern is a real person, because he looks as if he's been very carefully rendered. We see Cap shaking hands with this man with the neat brown hair and the neat brown beards, as Sid says, "Many thanks, Captain Marvel. Wish I'd been there to see it."
Uncle Dudley got it all on film. You can see it on the news this evening.
Gosh.
Suddenly, a police car drives up, and a blue-coated figure calls out.
Yes, two cops in the car. The first one says to Cap.
Captain Marvel, glad I saw you. We can use your help.
The other cop says, "We just got word a gang of hoods led by some weirdly dressed characters is taking over a bank."
Holy moly, them again? Where are they?
Getting directions to the bank, the red-garbed hero zooms there, and...
Cap rushes into the bank and we see Captain Walter Butler and Simon Gertie from number 30 and some goons, including the guy in the brown hat who we see hasn't replaced his hat. The top is still torn off, pointing their weapons at the poor bank staff. Bursting in and seeing them all, Cap says,
I was wrong. This is a different gang.
yeah, he was obviously expecting Big and Little Harp. And at this point, Captain Butler points at Captain Marvel and says, "Savannah cautioned us of a man in red. This must be he." And Simon Gertie says,
Set upon him, men. He can't stop all of you.
in the next panel, top of the next page, is a cracker. Cap is just standing still as four goons all pull at his arms, trying to move him off his feet. He's completely unimpressed. One goon is saying,
Gertie's right. One guy can't beat a whole mob.
"Yeah, pull him down," says another guy who's hanging off Cap's left arm.
Oh, be quiet. Why don't you just calm down and take a nap?
Cap raises both arms, lifting them up and making all of the goons fly up into the air, and their heads collide with each other with a very satisfying
Whap! Rap! Whack!
Now we see the goons all splayed out on the floor in the next panel, with one guy with stars floating around his head, which is very satisfying, as Cap looks around and says,
But their leaders have escaped with the rest of the gang.
and in the weedy bespectacled, mustachioed bank manager moves forward, clasping his hands in gratitude. He says to Cap, "Oh, they didn't get any money, though, thanks to you, Captain Marvel."
Changing back from Captain Marvel, Billy joins Uncle Dudley at the van.
Dudley is still behind the wheel as Billy opens the door. Billy says,
Savannah must be trying to keep Cap busy, and he's succeeding. I think I'd better get advice from the elders.
Good thought, Billy. Try Mercury. He might tell you how to mop up those thugs faster."
Activating the attorney phone, Billy contacts the messenger of the gods.
Now, we haven't had the attorney phone previously on the podcast, and our lack of familiarity with the TV show precludes us from saying whether or not this is authentic to the TV show. Maybe if someone out there listening saw it, they can let us know if this happened, sort of thing. I've got a memory of seeing a clip somewhere with Michael Gray talking to some sort of animated representation of the gods.
Okay.
But anyway, Billy is operating a little, it looks like an upside-down bowl.
Mm-hmm.
A dome, in fact, and it's a few round circular controls bedded around the top of it. And he's twisting one of those little controls, and a little beam of golden light is coming out from this dome, and the floating head can be seen. Wearing his Jay Garrick helmet with little red wings, I notice, it's the floating head of Mercury. And Billy says,
Mercury, I have a big problem.
I know. Savannah has brought several villains from 18th century America back to life.
That explains those strange-looking guys, but what can we do?
Don't worry. I'll send somebody to help you.
"Oh, that's nice of Mercury."
As soon as Billy signs off, the swiftest of the gods makes another call from his headquarters on the Rock of Eternity.
Yes, and we see Mercury. A longer shot of him here, we can see that he's still wearing his red shorts that he had on when he was in JLA 137, 138 and all that a few months ago. And we see that Mercury also has one of those control-studied domes that Billy had in the van. He's operating one of the buttons, and shining from it is another burst of golden light, and we see the floating head of a thick-set bald man. Mercury is saying,
Mr. Keeper, you and Kid Eternity are needed on Earth by Captain Marvel.
And the jovial form of Mr. Keeper replies,
Just tell me where on earth he is. And shortly, two invisible figures alight near Billy.
Yes, we see Billy and Uncle Dudley walking along the street. Uncle Dudley completely drawn to look like Les Tremaine here, it must be said. Like the total thinning comb-over look to his hair and the moustache and the safari suit is absolutely hilarious. And we see the translucent forms of Keep and Kid Eternity dropping down towards Billy and Dudley. And of course, we did meet Kid Eternity previously on the podcast. Was that in our Sherlock Holmes episode?
Yes.
Listeners, if you haven't heard that one, go and find it and everything. We'll wait. So, as they drop down, Mr. Keeper is saying,
Where's the Batson boy? But he can't see or hear us.
I'll fix that. Eternity! And with that, Kid Eternity becomes visible, appearing on the pavement in front of Dudley and Billy. Billy points and says,
Holy moly! Kid Eternity!
And Kid Eternity waves and says, Right! After all, I live in the same neighbourhood as the elders.
Yes, this is Kid Eternity, the lad who died before his time and was compensated by being endowed with the power to return to Earth, to become visible or invisible, and to call to his aid the great figures of history and mythology, all by saying the word Eternity by Calvin Klein.
Also, the name of one of the double A-sides of a 2001 Robbie Williams single, the other side, of course, being The Road to Mandalay. Wow. Eternity, a song he wrote about his friendship with Jerry Halliwell of the Spice Girls. I should do that, take that podcast, shouldn't I? Anyway, we cut back to the kids and Uncle Dudley and Mr. Keep on the pavement with Billy saying,
You're the very person to help. Savannah has brought back several villains from the past.
That's right up my alley. I'll take care of the old-timers,
while I scout around and see if I can find Savannah.
And the two boys head off in opposite directions, with Uncle Dudley standing in the background, sort of doing this, I'm miming it for the benefit of our YouTube viewers, doing a Stan Laurel, scratching the top of his head, what's going on type situation.
Night has fallen when Billy reaches the Liberty Bell Pavilion.
And we see the Liberty Bell hanging from its support, beautiful thing that it is, and we also see that Dr. Savannah and Beauty are standing nearby. Billy creeps into the room, hiding behind a tree. Yes, it's a tree. He spots them and thinks,
I had a hunch Savannah would try to sabotage the ceremony Captain Marvel is supposed to take part in tomorrow. And he's there with Butia. That's why he wants excitement elsewhere. Stallone will barge in and stop him here.
We see that Butia is reading a local newspaper at this point, and she says,
It says here the mayor is having trouble with his political opponents.
And Dr. Savannah has a weird gadget gun pointing at the Liberty Bell, and he replies, "Well, soon his worries will be over. I've changed the atoms of the bell to make it a huge atomic bomb. When Captain Marvel rings it, boom! No more troubles for the mayor, because there'll be no more city."
But the listening Billy has heard the plot.
Yes, and he thinks,
So, that's what he's up to. Captain Marvel will fix him.
and he starts to say,
Shut!
Billy is grabbed off his feet by a goon in a blue suit who puts a hand over Billy's mouth, stopping him from finishing saying Shazam. The goon says, "Gotcha, snooper." The next panel, the goon is carrying him towards Dr. Savannah and Beauty. He's obviously put a gag around Billy's mouth and he's lobbed him over his shoulder. And as he approaches Savannah, he says, "I caught this kid listening outside, boss." Dr. Savannah lowers his gadget gun and says, "This means I'll have to change my plans, but perhaps for the better. When Philadelphia goes, so will Billy. And there'll be no more Captain Marvel." Beauty looks on. Is she horrified?
Meantime, at the port of Philadelphia, Blackbeard and Anne Bonnet lead their men toward the ships.
Yes, there's a big ship in the background, a whole bunch of goons, and Blackbeard and Anne waving their cutlasses to encourage the guys, with Blackbeard saying,
Strike, me hearties! Loot the ships!
and Anne says,
Aye, for who can stand up to us?
and then there is a flash of white light, and a boy in a white polo neck and purple trousers with a red sash belt appears and says, "I'll show you who. Eternity!" And as the pirates look astonished, there is an enormous sound effect and another burst of energy, and we see a blonde man in an old-school fancy naval uniform bearing a cutlass with a whole bunch of lads in red and black and white striped shirts with weird black hats, all carrying cutlasses themselves. They kind of look like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, if you ask me, appear behind them. And very helpfully, Kid Eternity says, "Captain Robert Maynard, you and your crew beat Blackbeard's pirates once before in 1718. Care to try again?" And Captain Maynard says,
With pleasure, kid, even if we have to kill him a second time.
"Wow, it's history lesson after history lesson this week, isn't it, listeners? Don't say we're not good to you."
But the police have their own ideas about the newcomers.
Yes, we see a few cops standing a little far away. One of them points towards Kid Eternity and the ensuing battle and says,
More costume weirdos. They must be in with the others. Come on, men.
Kid Eternity sees this and thinks, they have the wrong idea. But I know someone to listen to. Eternity! And there is another, and there's a flash of yellow smoke. And a very portly looking fellow in a long purple coat, purple breeches tucked in at white socks, a nice golden orange waistcoat, frilly necktie, appears with arms spread in front of the cops. And the lead policeman says,
Great guns. Am I losing my grip, or is that Benjamin Franklin?
That is my name, and it is nice to be back in Philadelphia. But you fellows are mistaken. The first time Maynard overcame that blackguard, I was only a lad, but I wrote a ballad about it. Every sailor fought while he, sir, power had to wield the sword. Not a coward could you see, sir. Fear was driven from aboard.
"Gosh."
Suddenly, Kid Eternity spies a form fleeing.
Yes, looking over his left shoulder, he sees that Anne Bonny, or Bonnet, however we want to pronounce it this week, is running away. The kid says, "Uh-oh, Anne Bonny is trying to get away. Eternity!" And then there is another, and another cloud of yellow smoke. We see a woman appearing in an old-school American military uniform. Helpfully, Kid Eternity says, "Deborah Sampson Gannett, you disguise yourself as a man and serve with honour in the American Revolution. Can you?" And Deborah concludes,
Stop this pirate with ease, kid.
and she reaches forward with her own sword, knocking Anne Bonnet's cutlass out of her hand, and it falls to the ground. Gosh, this would make a smashing film.
With the pirates and their men captured, the Kid next finds the Harps leading another hijacking try.
Yes, big red cab truck with a green trailer, bunch of goons with guns pointing them at the poor chaps who were driving the truck. Big Harp and Little Harp are standing nearby. Big Harp pointing at the truck, he's saying, "This time we'll take plenty of swag." And Kid Eternity, peeking round the corner, seeing all this, cries, "Eternity!" And there is another flash of yellow smoke and a bunch of what look like, to my eyes, apologies to our American listeners, a bunch of American frontiersmen in sort of coonskin caps and tanned hide coats, and one guy with a revolutionary style hat and a long jacket with a belt over his shoulder, waving a sword, leading them. They all appear. Kid Eternity points them all in the direction of the truck, saying, "Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain Boys. Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, of course, supported. Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain Boys, you can take care of those bandits. And Ethan Allen says,
You bet, kid. Just like we did the Redcoats.
and we see the Harps looking on as they all rush towards them in the circular inset panel, which rounds out this panel. Kid Eternity looks back behind him at the chaos that is unfolding as he says, Guess I can leave this job to Ethan's volunteers. I still have one more gang to tackle.
And soon, at a jewellery store...
And we're outside this jewellery store, just your regular jewellery store on a busy high street. The large window has been broken, and standing outside are Captain Walter Butler, Simon Girty and General Benedict Arnold and some goons, and the old school guys are standing around keeping guard whilst the goons reach in and help themselves. Mr. Keeper and Kid Eternity are there. Mr. Keeper points and says,
It was a snap for me to find them, kid.
Kid takes it all in and cries once again, Eternity! Another burst of yellow smoke as Kid Eternity welcomes Daniel Boone. You and your Kentucky settlers can take care of this mob. And Daniel Boone, who we see has long blonde hair, carrying his musket, there's another chap with long white hair and a moustache standing behind him. Boone says to Kid Eternity, Just leave them to us, kid. I recognise one of them. That's Snake, Simon Girty. And we see Daniel Boone and his pals rushing forward, getting stuck in, and obviously it looks like there's bayonets at the end of their rifles, because we see one guy going down like a sack of spuds, as Kid Eternity observes Benedict Arnold trying to escape. I'd better get after him. Yes, and we see Arnold, that's the guy in the blue coat, rushing off. Mr. Keeper watches the fighting as Kid Eternity follows Benedict, thinking, I won't need any help to tackle one man.
But Kid Eternity may need help he doesn't have. 4 minutes later...
Yes, we see Daniel Boone standing over the body of Simon Girty and one goon clutching his stomach, lying on the ground as Mr. Keeper looks around saying,
Nice scrap, eh, kid? Kid? Where?
And there's a great type expression going in his face as he looks around for Kid Eternity, who's nowhere to be seen. Mr. Keeper thinks,
He's gone. But he has no powers unless I'm near him.
Gosh!
Where is the boy from beyond? He has tailed his quarry to Independence Mall.
The Boy from Beyond. That's fantastic. That sounds like the name of a Friday film special. Children's Film Foundation movie that Andy Crane would have introduced us to at 4:45 on a Friday.
Starring Kurt Russell.
Yes, Kid Eternity has followed Benedict Arnold, who he's going, obviously, to Independence Mall, because that's where the Liberty Bell is. And we see Billy Batson sitting tied up with his gag still in place. Billy Batson, the ostensible star of this comic, and Butia and Dr. Savannah standing next to the Liberty Bell as Benedict Arnold walks in towards them. Hiding behind a tree, maybe it's the same tree Billy hid behind, Kid Eternity watches this and thinks, the Liberty Bell Pavilion! That's where Savannah is! But why?
Approaching the structure, the kid finds it is guarded.
Oh no, it's the same goon in the blue suit that did for Billy. He sneaks up behind Kid Eternity saying, Another snoop! I'll fix ya! Kid Eternity turns around thinking, he looks pretty tough. I'll call John L. Sullivan to fight him. Eternity!
But this time, the magic word brings nothing.
Kid Eternity thinks, it didn't work. That means Keep isn't here. And he can only exclaim, oh! As the blue-suited goon crosses him in the back of the head. He's just a little boy, oh my goodness, knocking him to the ground. He binds Kid's hands, puts another gag in his mouth, humps him over his shoulder, walks into the pavilion towards Savannah saying, Another one, boss. Don't know who he is. And Savannah rubs his hands and says, I recognise him from pictures I've seen. He's Kid Eternity. I'll finish him with Billy. Ha ha ha. And he laughs. There's a quick slow dissolve.
The world's wickedest scientist reveals his diabolical plan.
Yes, we see that Billy and the kid have been tied together, back to back, secured with a rope. And Butia can only look on as we see Dr. Savannah and Benedict Arnold starting to move the Liberty Bell. Savannah says, As soon as we are far away, I'll ring the bell by remote control. Then, ha ha ha, no more Philadelphia, no more Captain Marvel, and no more Kid Eternity. Top of the next page, oh my goodness, they've removed the Liberty Bell from its support and they're lowering over Billy and Kid Eternity. Savannah is saying, That's it, but we must hurry. If anyone notices the bell is out of place, Billy might be freed and save the city. Butia steps forward.
Father, surely you don't really mean to go through with such a dreadful plan?
Bah! The people won't acknowledge me as rightfully ruler of the universe. That's unfair to me. And at this point, Benedict Arnold chips in, saying,
True. Congress refused me my right due. That's why I betrayed the rebel cause and took up the sword against them.
We see Savannah and Benedict Arnold shaking hands, with Savannah saying, "Yes, you understand me, General Arnold. You know what it is to have your talents unappreciated."
I learned a great lesson then, Savannah. It taught me what to do now.
And we see that Benedict is standing very, very close to the Liberty Bell. Now remember, the Liberty Bell is that big crack in the side, and we see that his sword, mounted on his belt, the end of his sword is starting to poke through the crack in the bell. Inside the bell, Kid Eternity's still unconscious, but Billy's awake, and the sword poking in just in front of Billy's face. Of course, remember that Billy and the kid are both gagged. Billy sees the tip of the sword poking in, and he thinks,
Arnold's sword, sticking through the crack in the bell. If I can hook my gag on it.
And he does. The gag gets pulled away from his mouth. Billy says,
Success!
And he yells,
Shazam!
There is an enormous Baroo! And the lightning bolt strikes. Yes, Captain Marvel stands revealed. He's lifted up the Liberty Bell. We see that Benedict's sword is poking out the side. He's untying Kid Eternity, who's woken up. The blue suit goon looks on, appalled. Dr. Savannah cries, "No! Not that big red cheese again!" And as Captain Marvel punches out the goon in the blue suit, Kid Eternity steps forward, grabbing Savannah by the shoulders, as Savannah says, "I don't understand! I was so sure I'd won!" Benedict Arnold laughs and says,
It's very simple, old boy. I betrayed you. I believed in the rebels' cause, but I betrayed them for personal gain. Result, even the British despised me as a turncoat. My life was miserable.
Now that he's dispensed with the goon, Captain Marvel steps forward and grabs Savannah by the back of his jacket, saying,
You should never have trusted a traitor, Savannah.
"You still haven't won. That bell is an atom bomb, and if anything causes it to ring, Philadelphia goes up."
Then the only thing to do is explode it at once.
Lifting Dr. Savannah off the ground, Cap continues.
I'll fly to the middle of the Gobi Desert. Then, with no one around, except you, because I know you'd want to see it, I'll ring the bell. Of course, it can't hurt me.
"But it'll blow me to Kingdom Come. No, I'll change it back." Reference to Kingdom Come there, listeners. Was Mark Wade reading this issue?
Reversing his devilish device, Savannah alters the Liberty Bell to its normal state.
Yes, he's using his little green gadget gun, blasting some rays at the bell as Kid Eternity and Captain Marvel look on. Savannah says, "There, now there'll be no blast. Phew."
Makes a big difference when you're the one to get blown up, doesn't it, Thaddeus?
Top of the next page, Cap grabs Savannah by the arm, dragging him off. He says,
Now you're going to take me to that reincarnation machine of yours. Kid, get those villains rounded up and follow us.
"I will do, Cap," says Kid Eternity very obligingly.
Soon at the evil scientist's hideout, he is forced to return the villains to where they came from.
Yes, we see the big clunky machine, Savannah at the controls. The coffin is being opened up, and Cap is dropping Blackbeard into it, as he says.
1 down, 6 more to go.
And in the foreground, we see the back of Benedict Arnold and the back of Simon Gertie, as Benedict Arnold observes,
At least this time around, I did the right thing.
When the last revived criminal has been disposed of, however, Savannah touches another control, and...
There are a couple of bursts of electrical energy, and the control console and Savannah grow translucent and fade out, with Savannah saying, "Heh, I had this plan to teleport me and the machine far away if you beat me. See you in Boston."
Holy moly, he escaped again!
Beautia runs forward. Leaning against Cap's chest, she says,
I can't stand the things he does. But he is my father, and I love him.
and a slightly sad-looking Captain Marvel replies,
I know, Beautia. If only he'd use his genius for good.
We cut to see Mr. Keeper and Kid Eternity surrounded by a cloud as Keeper says,
Time to go, kid. And next time, don't slip away and get in trouble.
I'll try not to, Keep. Eternity!
And so, back in eternity...
Yes, we see Mr. Keeper and Kid Eternity walking away from us with their backs to the camera into the clouds as Keeper says,
You know, kid, I like Billy's mentor, Dudley. Wish I could have met him.
Oh, that's natural, Keep, but after all, down on Earth you're only an invisible phantom. He couldn't even hear you. And a closing caption reads,
So, we leave Kid Eternity and Mr. Keeper. For now, at least. Next month, in Boston, Captain Marvel again meets the most powerful foe of them all. Black Adam. On sale during the third week in December.
Yes, get Dwayne Johnson on speed dial because we're probably going to do Shazam issue 28, aren't we?
Yes, how exciting.
I know. Well, subject of exciting, that was great fun.
Superb. And listeners, it might surprise you to know we have done absolutely no research on any of the historical figures that are in this issue. So apologies if we mispronounced any names, or
Yes.
if we gave them the wrong accents or whatever. Yes.
Yes. And at this point, obviously, we should say our grateful thanks to Max from the Weird Warriors podcast, one of our cousin podcasts in the podcast universe. This was a kind of a weird story with warriors from the past being involved in the adventure, so we had to get him to do some voices for us.
Yes.
So thank you very much. Listeners, if you're not listening to the Weird Warriors, we would encourage you to do so. Max and Rich have a great time reading through and discussing the stories published in Weird War Tales, comic that was published basically during the Bronze Age, and it was contemporaneous with a lot of stuff that we're doing. We've done one issue of that series already ourselves. We'll probably end up doing at least another one, I'm sure, in the future. Max and Rich have helped us out many times by guesting on some of our big crossover episodes, and it's another turn from Max's Mercury.
Yes, you had to say Max Mercury, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. I second absolutely everything David said there. Also, I'd like to thank Christine for helping us out with some of the voices, because, to be honest, we were getting a bit croaky.
Yes. But no, that was great fun. The other thing to quickly point out before we start discussing the story is that the 2019 and 2023 Shazam movies starring Zachary Levi and Asher Angel and Jack Dylan Glazer, they were set in Philadelphia.
Of course, yes. Coincidence or merely chance?
Who can say? And of course, the two movies were inspired by the New 52 version of the Shazam continuity, which was also set in Philadelphia. Maybe it's a nice coincidence. We could ask Jeff Johns. Jeff, if you're listening,
get in touch.
Please get in touch and let us know if Shazam 27 was a direct inspiration on you setting your Shazam series in the city of brotherly love.
And also let us know if you want to do a voice in Justice League of America 144 that's coming up at some point.
Yes. We'll extend that call to any listeners as well. Brian, you've already done someone. You're going to have to come back and do another one. Ranger Gods, Vigilante, don't worry about it. Right. Okay, we'd better talk about this issue now, hadn't we?
Do we have to? It's excellent.
Yeah.
It was a huge amount of fun.
It really was, yes. It was great. I mean, in the preparation, I was like, oh my goodness, there are so many cast members. This is going to be a real struggle, but it wasn't. We did okay with it, I think.
Yeah.
Great fun. Obviously, our main reason for doing this one was the appearance of Kid Eternity, another Golden Age hero acquired by DC, because he was published by Quality, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's Quality Comics, so it's weird because this is DC publishing a Fawcett character and a Quality character in their own titles, so it's quite bizarre, but DC have bought Quality by this point, so yeah.
Yeah, and of course we know that the Shazam comic, this continuity, is set on Earth S, because issue 26 starts with Billy just having a quick reminiscence about the crossover he's just had with the Justice League and the Justice Society. So what we have is a Quality Comics character who lives on Earth S, or is at least accessible by characters who live in the Earth S continuity.
Interesting. So this Kid Eternity then, was he a native of Earth S, or is he from elsewhere in the multiverse, like Earth X, where the Quality heroes came from at this point?
This is the thing. Is he the character from Earth X, but he exists outside of all ties and can be accessed from other continuities? We know that Kid Eternity is going to return in the pages of the world's finest Shazam strip. So we know, listeners, it's probably safer to say this is a Kid Eternity who lives in the Earth S continuity. But it's fascinating that, as Pete said a second ago, this is DC publishing a story set in the Fawcett continuum featuring a character from Quality Comics. Genius. And it's supposed, given that this issue is set in Philadelphia and has all that history to it, this has obviously been carefully sculpted and put together by Nelson. With Savannah bringing back these historical figures, the obvious thing to do is get someone else who can bring some counter-historical figures to deal with them. I think it's genius getting Kid Eternity involved.
Absolutely. It's a lovely history lesson for kids, this whole issue, including, here's this building, here's that building, and here are some dates that we all know off the top of our heads, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And here's these characters you might have heard of and talked about in school or in history class. Let's see them in action. It was terrific, yeah.
Yes,
so
hugely enjoyable. Jinx. We said it at the same time. Yeah, they did say hugely enjoyable at exactly the same time. Logopopolis.
It is weird though seeing Billy and Dudley drive about in a big Wiz TV van. It just seems so different from what we've had before.
Yeah.
I can totally understand trying to mirror the TV series, but it does seem like it's something that's been shoehorned in just for new readers, as it were, so that people can recognise it.
Yeah, I mean, what's especially interesting about it, very soon we're going to be starting our coverage of the 70s run of Wonder Woman when it resets to World War II for about a couple of years worth of issues. So it's the Earth 2 Wonder Woman during World War II, few JSA guest appearances, blah, blah, blah. And they did that because the first season of the Wonder Woman TV show was set in World War II.
Of course.
So it's quite interesting that they're doing this, that they're taking these steps to make them accessible to, I suppose, new readers who might be coming to them via the TV series.
That's very true. I mean, they did a similar thing back when the Batman TV series aired, because the Riddler was like the breakout villain star of that, and he only had 2 Golden Age appearances and hadn't been seen since. So with the popularity of Frank Gorshin's Riddler, they rewrote him back into contemporary stories, and suddenly he was a big hit in the Silver Age again.
Interesting. Again, listeners will remind you that Brandon Peters, friend of the show, is doing his retrospective review of the first series of the Adam West Batman series on Mondays on the Brandon Peters show. Go and check it out. Tell him we sent you. That's a really interesting point. Further echoed in a way, I suppose, in the way that, given the success of the Marvel movies, some of the characters in the comics have started to look a little bit more like they do in the films and started to be written a little bit more like they are in the films.
Yeah.
I've seen a few sort of like, not complaints, but a few muttered asides on the socials over the last few years.
Yeah.
Black Widow seems to have got shorter, etc. The Guardians of the Galaxy, especially for a while, they've all changed drastically compared to someone like Drax the Destroyer or Star-Lord.
Exactly, yeah.
If you consider what they looked like in the 70s and 80s, compared to what they look like now, it's interesting that sometimes other media feeds back into the source and changes it in a way.
Yeah, we'll need to watch out for when Superman the movie drops in 1978, when we reach that point in the timeline, to see if any of the things that were set up in that are reflected in the comics. I can't remember anything offhand, I'll be honest. But it'll be interesting to compare them and see if DC made any sort of concerted effort to try and make it more reader-friendly for people to just know it from the movie.
No, I mean, that's a really good point, because obviously at this point, Clark is a TV reporter still, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the movie very much just puts him in the Daily Planet, so it'll be interesting to see if that changes. Listeners, if you know in advance, don't write in and tell us, we'll get there, we'll figure it out.
Half the fun's mapping all this out as we go along. It's great.
Exactly.
Going back to the story, I did think it was a nice twist at the end to have Benedict Arnold turn out to be a traitor, but for the side of good.
Yeah.
The Benedict Arnold redemption arc, so to speak.
Yeah. Our American listeners can let us know what they think about that. Ross, I'm looking at you. You can tell me. Chuck, you can let us know what you think. If you want to record anything for us to include in our end of the year wrap-up episode about such things, I'm sure Steve will have some thoughts as well. Boys, jump on a Zoom call, have a conversation about it, send it to us, and we'll put it in the next Shazam issue. Challenge extended, I dare you. It maybe would have removed the surprise if we'd seen Benedict, maybe an inset panel of him suggesting that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Placing his weapon, as it were. But that bit was really cool. I mean, it's pretty cool just seeing Billy Batson and Kid Eternity sharing a panel.
Very true.
It's great. Similar to that big JLA-JSA crossover we did recently, it's always cool to see the characters from different publishers just sort of teaming up, and at this point, we haven't really got to a point where it's all too convoluted or difficult to follow.
No.
It's still just fun.
Yeah. I've got a couple of questions before we move to the letters.
All right.
Firstly, Billy was risking things a wee bit when he said Shazam whilst trapped inside the bell, because it had been turned into an atomic bomb.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. Gosh.
Yeah, and the lightning should have set that off, and it was supposed to be an atomic bomb that would explode when Captain Marvel was handling it, and he did.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. Nelson, you slipped.
So that's one question. Another question I have is, this device that Savannah has, does it actually pull people out of time, or does it kind of clone them, bring out a new version of them? Because it's implied at the start he's creating new versions of them, but at the end, they seem to be sending them back in time.
Well, looking back at it, he says this machine is recreating every atom that once made up the body of one of the worst villains in American history. So I think that when they go back into the coffin, they're just, as horrible as it sounds, they're just being disassembled again. I think the process is just reversed. I think he's cloning them, essentially.
Yeah.
For want of a better word, a better way of putting it, I don't think he's bringing the originals through time. No.
Yeah.
That then brings us into deeper conversations about, did they have consciences? Did they feel like real people?
Yeah.
Are they murdering people by sending them back into this machine?
I mean, the dialogue at the end almost implies that they are just sending them back in time.
Well, he is forced to return the villains to where they came from.
Is what the caption box says. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that basically just means he's returning them to the cosmic dust that he used to fabricate them.
Gasp. That's quite murdery.
It's quite deep, isn't it?
Yeah. What is life?
Think on that. I know. Stephen Moffat might have read this.
Listeners, if you want to tell us what you think life is, you can write.
Yes, we'll tell you where to write to later in the
We shall indeed.
So, listeners, grab your copies of issue 29 because we're going to do the letters pages.
Shazam Mail!
Yep, first one goes like this. Dear editor, Shazam 27 gives this book its long-needed turn for the better. I was glad to see you doing new stories again, and I remain very fond of Schaffenberger's way with Cap, but the new tales seemed too conventional and unsurprising. I'm aware that attempts to mimic the TV show are necessary if Shazam is to win new readers, but they still look troublesome. Must Mary, Junior, and even Mr. Tawny become only occasional guest stars? Must the delightfully funny Uncle Marvel vanish forever in favour of this moustached facsimile? Granted, it is nice to see Dudley exhibiting warmth and some wisdom. What is the point of these silly riddles the elders keep feeding Billy? Isn't it more appealing to see Billy as an independent TV anchorman than as a roving reporter always under a father figure's supervision? So, issue 27 came as a surprise. The elders don't mimic the Riddler, and Dudley doesn't try to act as Billy's superior. Kid Eternity was well handled and proved an excellent guest star. His presence, along with all the historical figures, both good and bad, gave the story substantial interest. Overexposure is a problem for Savannah, but the use of guest stars as well as clever plots such as this issue's Liberty Bell and Reincarnation Caper should relieve much of the difficulty. Beauty's return was wholly unexpected, but her moral bankruptcy has worn thin. Here, old Thad is going to blow up Philadelphia, and she doesn't do anything to stop him because, sigh, she loves her daddy. Why don't you make her Cap's undercover agent, spying on Savannah? And where's her brother, Magnificus? On the other hand, you've greatly improved Cap's personality. It's good to see him making jokes when fighting the bad guys. A sharp sense of wit indicates its possessor has no shortage of brains. Your handling of Benedict Arnold was interesting, as is your introduction of actual places in the cities Cap visits. Obviously, you're basing Billy's travels on Cap's Golden Age habit of visiting different cities. This, along with Savannah's current rampage, will be interesting if it doesn't go on too long. I wish there were more connection between the episodes so suspense would increase from issue to issue. And that's from Peter Sanderson, room 921, Johnson Hall, Columbia University, New York, New York.
Peter Sanderson? Wow! Listeners, if you don't know who Peter Sanderson is, he's a comic journalist. He was also a researcher who basically read every DC comic in the run-up to them publishing Who's Who, and basically worked with Len Wein.
Wow, of course.
Yeah, to basically form Who's Who, the guides to the DC Universe.
Excellent.
He also helped with the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. I think he wrote Marvel Saga and other titles as well.
Ah.
And he's done lots of comic journalism as well.
Interesting.
So yeah, Peter Sanderson, absolute legend, my goodness.
That's pretty cool.
He was quite a letter hack back in the day as well, but I think this is the first time we've had a letter from him turn up.
I don't recognise the name, and I'm sure if he had turned up before, you'd have pointed all that out. That's very interesting. We'll have to see if and when he turns up again.
Absolutely.
And of course, we'll give a shout out to the various Who's Who podcasts on the Fire and Water podcast network at this juncture.
Mm-hmm.
Editorial response to Peter goes like this.
Glad you like what we're doing, and I trust you were pleased to see Uncle Marvel back in uniform this time around. Oh, tangent. We might be bringing in the rest of the Marvel family in the very near future, says E. Nelson Bridwell.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Next letter. Dear Mr. Bridwell, I have just finished reading Shazam 27. Needless to say, I'm ecstatic. I've always enjoyed Captain Marvel, but with the return to new stories, the serialised situation, and the return of one of the greatest, most imaginative heroes of the 40s, Kid Eternity, he has been placed on my bestseller list. I eagerly await the return of Black Adam, as I have never seen him in action. But if it is at all possible, bring back Kid Eternity! All in all, Shazam 27 was another great step in the stairway to stardom Cap has been climbing since his return to publication. So says Bruce Harris from Baltimore.
Interesting. Editor response reads, we'll see more about Kid Eternity in the future. Maybe we should have him call on Shakespeare, Homer and Jack London to write some stories for us. Jokes, ENB. And the next letter we're reading goes like this. Dear Nelson, I think Shazam 27 was the best one in a long time. The Kid Eternity appearance made it all worthwhile. It was good to see Beauty back, and I liked the ending with Benedict Arnold betraying Savannah. I don't have any complaints about the comic, just don't forget Junior and Mary. And that to the point epistle comes from Kurt Gray, Indianapolis. Boxford Court, Indianapolis. Brandon, if you're listening, go to Boxford Court and get a photo.
There you go. No editorial response, but the final letter says, Dear Shazammers, my name is Freddie Freeman. Did Logan write this? I bet he didn't know any of your characters existed. Your comic is great. My favourite thing in it is Captain Marvel Jr. Oh, funnily enough. But why is my counterpart always wearing the same clothes? Also, he wears the scarf around his neck. Is Freddie the type who catches cold easily? And that's from, funnily enough, Freddie Freeman from Arlington, Texas.
Editor responds quite fairly, reads, Freddy is too poor to afford winter clothes. He doesn't even have an overcoat, so he makes do with a scarf, only in winter. And that's from E. Nelson Bridwell.
There we are, worth mentioning that.
Yes.
Earth Prime Freddie Freeman.
Yes, exactly. Wow.
Making his Earth 2 podcast debut. Although, was there not a baseball player or football player called Freddie Freeman as well?
I'm not sure.
Certainly a Funko Pop of him.
That's really interesting. When we write our DC comic.
How exciting.
Did he become a fan of Captain Marvel Jr. when he found out he had the same name? Or the reverse? Did his parents name him after Captain Marvel Jr.?
Does Captain Marvel Jr. read comics featuring this Freddie Freeman of Earth Prime? Who can say?
Yep. Freddie, if you're still with us and if you're listening to the show, please get in touch and let us know. What's it like to have the same name as... I mean, I've got the same name as a former prominent British politician, and I went to college with James Dean.
Oh, there we are.
Not that James Dean, of course. So I would have quite liked to have been the same name as a superhero's secret identity. That would be fun.
I have the same name as the charge hand prop man from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Fact fans.
There you go, listeners.
Occasionally I see it when credits in movies and I'm going, oh, there I am again. How exciting.
There he is. Maybe that's the guy you saw at Queen Street Station the other day.
Maybe. Listeners, do you have the same name as anyone famous? Why don't you write to us and tell us? You can email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media because I've always put up some lovely bonus material for this and indeed all of our episodes. On Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth 2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2, and it is, as I say every time, the number 2 for all of our socials.
If you're feeling generous, as our good friend Paul Ken did the other day, you can make your way to our coffee page via our link tree, buys the price of a beverage or a comic or whatever it's called. That would be lovely. That would make it all worthwhile.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
And you can also consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcast and leaving us a positive review. That would be lovely.
On that bombshell, I've been Peter.
And I've been David. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon on
the Earth 2 Podcast.
Transmatter Cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
Darren, look back. Captain Marvel might be gaining on me.
Excellent. Yeah, Bob Dylan on speed dial.
Imagine, Captain Marvel will actually ring the Liberty Bell.
I'm imagining it right now. Sorry. Sorry. Had to be done.
I had a hunch Savannah would try to sabotage the ceremony Captain Marvel is supposed to take part in tomorrow. And he's there with Busia. That's why he wants excitement. No, that's why he...
Interesting.
Okay, that's very inappropriate.
Paging Dr. Freud. I can't remember if the new 52 Shazam series was set in Philadelphia. That was always the inspiration. Shall I go and look? Actually, let me just grab the hardcover off the shelf. That's probably the best way of doing it, isn't it?
There we are.
Right, hang on.
I'll give you a song in the meantime. Shazam is the magic word he says to transform himself into the
That's a
big
good
red cheese. Shazam.
Where is it? Where is it?
Shazam
Oh, there it's there. I found it.
is the magic word.
It's
Shazam
amusingly,
is the
it's
word
behind
he
this
says.
Shazam action figure.